Welcome to the program with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, off and running, and a big show as always this day in Tennessee sports history. We'll have the stat of the day as well. It's 58 days until football time in Tennessee. So, Caleb, you have a new chore, and as our stat of the day, part of that needs to be a player that wore that number. And I cannot think of anybody that wore 58.
Yeah, I may not abide by that chore. It depends.
Maybe Bernard Gooden. Okay, we're going to look back at Tennessee's football weekend. They had a big one. And really, it comes down to this past weekend and this upcoming week that sets the foundation for this upcoming class. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to throw some names at you. Should the Vols spend all $20.5 million on all non-revenue sports? I think that the thing that came out when Congress initially threw that number out, throw it all in football, right? I'm not so sure that's the best way to spend that money. I've had a change of heart. We'll discuss. Lakers sell for $10 billion. That's with no land, guys. What would Neyland Stadium and University of Tennessee football program sell for? Be a heck of a lot more than $10 billion. Now that sounds crazy to some people. That'll be What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry and Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Today's tough question coming up by Banks and Jones. We'll look at some prospects, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. And the best unit on defense this season, that'll be Four Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford and Ted Russell Lincoln. And a Wisconsin man has sued Miami over tampering. That's going to continue to happen. Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. I trust that you had a fantastic weekend, Caleb, and those on the message board. It was hot in East Tennessee. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I don't complain about the heat because I prefer the heat over the cold, but it was hot.
It's brutal. It is brutal. It is getting more brutal. I even have to cut my dog's walk short. And my dog is an outdoor dog. So, but yeah, no, it's brutal.
All right. Go ahead and take a moment. If you can, hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. If you haven't, all kinds of good stuff coming up from this upcoming season. And we'll go ahead and start it right now with today's tough question. It's brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. You and I first said the same thing when they announced that $20.5 million amount that schools could directly pay athletes. What do we both say? Football.
Yep, we were like football. Maybe some men's basketball, but mostly football.
Yeah, like my initial reaction was 80 to 90% football, a little bit of basketball. And I really thought I'm not going to care about the non-revenue sports, but I've changed my mind. And I want to ask this of our posters and our message board as well, because I think I have a unique idea. And I like to try to bring those things to the table when I can. But here are my thoughts. I think football is going to be football. I think football is, and I don't mean this as any sort of derogatory term, I think it's the cockroach. I think no matter what happens in the college sports landscape, football's still going to be there. Just like we could get hit by a meteor and there's still going to be cockroaches running around. And I mean it as a good thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing to say, but I get what you're saying. I get your point.
I mean, I love it's like a cockroach you love. So I do love this cockroach called football, and I want it to stay around forever, and I think it will. So I don't think that $20.5 million, when we're talking about Nico getting $2 million a year, I don't think that sounds like an incredible amount of money. So why not take that money and spend it on all other sports? Now, I'm a businessman, so I'm going to tell you primarily I'm going to spend it on the two that are going to give me, based off recent history, the most promotion for ultimately football. This is still a plan, Caleb, that football is number one. It's just not number one in the initial transaction. So then I'm going to continue to spend money on baseball, women's basketball, probably some women's softball, and, of course, men's hoops, because they are a revenue sport. But to get the promotion of the school, Caleb, I'm going to spend all of it because I think the NIL dollars will fall in line. I think the pilots of the world will say, ooh, let me spend money with you, and they will.
Okay. I got to say I disagree. And, yes, I am going to disagree because I think you're much higher on Tennessee's NIL prospects than I am. I think there are a lot of people, based on people we've talked to, among Tennessee's NIL boosters. I think they're a lot more old school than a lot of other NIL boosters. I think they have a genuine problem spending this money on athletes. I also think, and I've said this up front and I'll continue to say it, some of them aren't very bright. And I think some of them thought that they could get a return on their investment throwing $8 million at a quarterback. And
there are also some that I think thought Knoxville is the second biggest city in the SEC, right? Behind Nashville. Nashville's not even really an SEC city. So I do think there's some in Knoxville that thought this NIL check that I'm about to stroke is going to cure all ills. Forget Pruitt, forget Butch, forget all that stuff. I think there was a little bit of sense of cockiness with NIL money.
Oh, there was. And then on top of that, now Tennessee does not have this as bad, but they did, and this is what led to the decade of dysfunction, Dave. You know a lot of people like this. There is a sense of delusion. It's not as bad as Alabama, but there is a sense of delusion among the Tennessee faithful who are wealthy, which is they genuinely believe that most of the great athletes that played for Tennessee went there because they just love Tennessee and they wanted to be a part of this, great university, as opposed to going there because they wanted to try to get to the NFL, which is the real reason they went to Tennessee.
Yes, but I do want to say this. I always thought that one of Philip Fulmer's most incredible strengths was turning them into Tennessee guys. I saw a lot of guys that showed up that were just mercenary types, and in a year they were crying when they ran through the team.
Oh, yeah, they fall in love with Tennessee once they get there, but they're mercenaries when they're on the recruiting trail. Okay, and I mean, the most beloved person you could think of, Peyton Manning. He looked at Tennessee and thought, this is a coach and a coaching staff that could get me to the NFL. They will coach me well for the NFL.
This is basically AAA.
Yeah, exactly.
With the best pitching coach in the biz.
Right, exactly. That's how Peyton Manning looked at it. And so, with that in mind, I think some of the booster faithful, again, Tennessee's not as bad as Alabama. Alabama is the worst. They are literally like, well, don't you know? We're Alabama, and you should be so lucky to play for us, and you should take a pay cut. They think that their program is greater than Nick Saban or Bear Bryant, whereas Nick Saban and Bear Bryant were greater than the program. The coach is always greater than the program in college. Sorry, he is. But I think Alabama genuinely thinks that and is genuinely delusional about it. And so that could hurt them long term. Tennessee is somewhat delusional. I do think that's an NIL problem. And because that's a problem, Danny White's going to have to stroke some of that $20.5 million from the House settlement. He's going to spend some of it on Tennessee football. Because I just don't think he's going to get the same amount of money from the boosters who have now, again, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. They're upset that they didn't get a return on investment on players. I still can't believe they ever thought they would get a return on an investment on players, honestly.
The only person that did is you're talking to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Will West will tell you that. And it was probably a little bit of luck, too, with what we did with Cooper and Jacob. But I don't think anybody got a positive return on their investment other than me. And that worked out incredibly well. But, I was just blessed in that regard. And I found the two greatest guys. I could have found two guys that didn't want to do it after a loss or that partied too hard after a win. That could have gone south in so many directions. But I'm not saying that if there's a quarterback out there and he's like, man, I need $500,000 more or I can't make it happen, that you don't pull from that pot. I mean, I'm okay with that, but I just don't think that should be your primary source of income. I think you should. I mean, there's monies I set aside when they come into business that I set aside. And I'm sure you in personal finances, you do too. There's just, you need to do that in that regard, or I think you're going to see what we talked about last week. I think you're going to see now South Carolina's not going to give up on football, but I think you're going to see them go all in on women's basketball because that's a promotional tool. I think the non-revenue sports aren't going to bring in revenue. That's why they're non-revenue sports. So they better start bringing in promotion for your university, right?
Right. I agree.
Right. Kudos to LSU. I was thinking about LSU over the weekend. Why? Because they won the College World Series. That means something. I don't know what that means to a 17-year-old, but it can't hurt. And Tennessee sells itself as the everything school. So I think you're going to have a Mississippi State throw an inordinate amount of money at baseball. I don't think LSU does that because football is so big. But I think you're going to have certain schools that are going to make you look bad in certain sports. And I don't think you want that.
Yes, I understand that. There's other ways around this. I mean, let's call it what it is. LSU had individuals smart enough to figure out ways to monetize their earnings on the NIL front. I mean, they had Olivia Dunn out here posting thirst traps, and so she became a millionaire as a gymnast at LSU. So there were definitely ways to do that. I do think with Tennessee, but see, there's another layer to this, Dave. Now, I don't think it's going to hold up in court. We talked to T. Scott Jones about this last week. Somebody's going to sue. But for now, the House settlement has resulted in a third party NIL go to analyze and determine whether or not this is a legitimate NIL deal or a pay for play scheme. So
again, here's the problem I have with that already. And that is, Caleb, here's what you're going to have real quick. You're going to have big time delays. Do you remember that? You may not remember it as much because you are at practice every day, but do you remember whether it was the academic issues or Prop 48 issues, and Philip Fulmer would come to the media and say, well, I don't have any news for you. I wish I did. It's just it's a shame this takes so long. It's terrible. And, he plays up the side of the kid, makes him look better, puts pressure on the NCAA. Reset. We're getting ready to do this all over again. Well, I don't know why that he can't be a sponsor for this hardware store. I mean, this hardware store is good people. They've been supporters of the Vols since 1908. And I'm just here to tell you that this guy loves hardware. And it seems like the pre-practice press conferences or discussions about these things are going to borderline on absurd.
Oh, of course they will. Of course they will. And that's exactly going to be something that happens. There's going to be lawsuit after lawsuit on this. I'm just saying, because it exists, that's another barrier Tennessee has to have to just use NIL money to pay for these football players. Because that's why I'm saying I think they're going to need to dip into that $20.5 million settlement money. And I think it's because I think with the NIL Go money, or with the NIL Go third party, with Tennessee's boosters mentality, I'm disagreeing with you, I guess, that the NIL money alone will be enough to prop it up.
Okay. I don't think it will. So here's the question. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. How much of the university's money, that $20.5 million, should go to football?
I'm going to say 17. 17 should go to football. And by the way, that's generous if I give you how much football generates. But 17 of the 20.5 should absolutely go to football. Dave, I don't think you played the Banks & Jones ad, did you?
All right, buddy. What do you got? 0 to 20.5 million. Are you going to go all in?
I'm going to say 17 million. 17 million is what needs to be spent on it. Yeah, 17 million. I'm going to say 17 million needs to be spent on football.
Okay, I'm going 0. Here's what I'm going to do if I'm Danny White. I am going to I'm going to go to my group that's in charge of raising money for NIL. Maybe there's a different group as opposed to donors. I'm not really sure. I would think there'd be a different group. I don't know. It's a different. I can tell you it tends to be a younger crew that spends NIL money. The older guys are like, they should get their scholarship, which may be true, and I'm some of that. I'm going to my guys. I'm saying it's your job to raise this money. It's on you. So it is absolutely your job to raise the money, and I don't care if I need $50 million at the end of the year to pay players or if I need $100 million to pay players. Your job's to make sure I got it. And that's where I would be with them. And if they couldn't do it, then I would go hire somebody next year that could. I mean, I would be patient to some extent, but at the end of the day, my grandfather told me something a long time ago. He says, nobody really does anything until somebody sells something. And there's a lot of truth to that. And Tennessee needs to sell a lot of those NIL endorsements, but make sure they take care of their non-revenue sports because the promotion is just worth it. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. All right, what the H? It's brought to you by Rick Terry. Rick Terry Jewelry Design. The Lakers sold for $10 billion. $10 billion. And let me be real clear. All you're buying is a brand. You're not really buying the personnel. I don't think Jeannie Buss is going to hang out. I don't think that you're going to get much input from anybody that used to be there previously, be it Magic, be it whoever it may be. You are getting just the brand. And you're not even getting the land. They lease to play in whatever it is, crypto arena. What would Tennessee be worth? Give us an update on our poll question. Let's reset that because I have an idea of what Tennessee might be worth.
So the poll question of this one, should Tennessee spend all of its $20.5 million on non-revenue sports? Yes, NIL will take care of itself was 45%. No, only football matters was 55%. Now this one you're talking about. Tennessee, how much is Tennessee worth? And how much could Tennessee? How much is Tennessee football worth? And we'll say 100 million, a billion, 10 billion, or 50 billion.
Okay, let's be real clear because you're not getting the entire university. You're not even getting the entire athletic department. But let's say you are getting wherever football primarily resides. So you're getting 3 practice fields. You're getting prime dorm space that the university could sell for a ton of money. You're obviously getting the stadium. What were the numbers again?
I threw in 100 million, a billion, 10 billion, and 50 billion.
I feel like with the land, it's easy. Maybe somebody out there that's a real estate person could help us. Also, we're looking for a real estate partner here at Off the Hook Sports, so feel free and jump in, and maybe you can be a part of the program on a regular basis. But I am, gosh, Caleb, I feel silly saying the top one, but I'll say the next to top one. What was the next to top one?
The next to top one was 10 billion, which is what the Lakers were valued at.
But with no land. You know, if the Lakers owned any piece of property in LA, they'd probably be worth 20 billion.
What you also have to remember is a lot of think about it from this way too, though. And this is where it's a little tricky. Basketball owners are typically owners out of hobby, not for return on investment. It's not like football. You know what I mean? Like most basketball owners, it's a hobby. It's kind of the same way Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys in '89. It's a show-offy move more than anything to buy a basketball team. It's not like most, NFL teams you buy for a return on investment. And NBA teams you're buying to just show off to say you're a team owner. And a lot of them will overpay and overspend for that. And so, I mean, we're talking about the Dodgers owners overspending because he wants to say he's the Lakers owner and he wants to see the Lakers win, and he doesn't mind losing money to watch the Lakers win, basically, in basketball. So
he owns the Dodgers too, and he's doing that. So
he's opening up checkbooks for the Dodgers. He's just buying World Series titles more than your Yankees even are now. Dodgers spend more than the Yankees do. Funny enough.
I don't have a problem with that. If you got something that's worth that much money, you should spend money on it.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if the Lakers are actually worth $10 billion. I'm pretty sure they aren't. But yeah, I think Tennessee, like if you were trying to buy Tennessee and you were thinking specifically profit and return on investment.
Oh, I see your point. Okay. All right. I see your point. I agree with you. I don't think there's any question that number got inflated in the reporting so that owner felt better about his maybe lacking something. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm just saying. I think to him, 9.5 billion sounds a lot different than 10 billion, don't you?
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree.
That's not $500,000 difference. That's billions to him and his ego. That's billions.
And I mean, just publicly traded franchises in general, publicly traded assets in the stock market. I mean, the whole thing you try to do is you try to overinflate those assets for shareholders, and then you try to undervalue them for the IRS. Everybody does it, So that's how life is. I try to undervalue my house for the IRS, but I try to overvalue it on the market if I'm ever putting it on the market. So, yeah, I think Tennessee football as a program by itself would actually, I think you might get a return on investment if you spent 10 billion buying it. And then, because you're right, it would,
you could sell the land and make 10 billion tomorrow.
Exactly. If you bought Tennessee and then you bought Neyland Stadium, you could use Neyland Stadium for way more than just 7 football games a year, which by itself gets you $100 million. And
yeah, I mean, whoever bought it would throw out the sanctity of don't mess up the venue because it's Neyland Stadium. You'd have concerts all the time.
All the time. All the time. I mean, Morgan Wallen would be there once a year.
You have to have a special connection nowadays to do it. You got to be Morgan Wallen or Kenny Chesney or something like that.
Yeah.
Jackson, that was a weird one. I went to that one, by the way, when I was 13.
Really? Did he take you home?
He did not. I was too old. But now, Caleb, I think they could make it back on the land. And I think though this speaks to maybe the brand. How do you compare the brand of an SEC school compared to the Lakers? I can tell you this. I do happen to be a big Dan Patrick show fan. I listen to it after the show. Please don't ever listen to it during the show. It's not that good. You wouldn't even like it. It's on the same time. Don't listen to it. I'm just kidding. But I will tell you this, that their number one that they talk about is the NFL, right? That's everybody's number. Their number two, because they're a morning show in LA, because they're on 9 to noon, so they're on 6 to 9. So their number two is NBA. Oftentimes, probably a little bit to the detriment of the show, the Lakers. But I will say this, and they're studying this. This is what they do. If they say that quarterfinal hockey is getting an incredible 1,000 share on TV, that's what they're going to talk about. College football is right there. I mean, it's on a national show, man. It is right there. So if you had asked me 10 years ago, how would I compare a value between the Lakers brand and the University of Tennessee's brand, I would say it's nowhere close. But because of the elevation, Tennessee got some stability. I think you would agree college football is elevated. I think the brands are fairly close.
Yeah, no, I think they very much are. And I think the thing about a brand like Tennessee, and this is what's underrated about a college football brand, it's heavily regionalized, so you don't know, so it doesn't seem like it's worth more, but the regionalization of it, the people in that region love it so much more than the masses love the Lakers. Does that make sense?
And you're not going to lose them. I mean, because you can't move. You can't up and move to Chattanooga.
Right. A good comparison, I say, and a lot of people always get shocked by this. You always hear these artists, Dave, and I'm sure you have. You hear these artists that they're always on the radio. They always have top 5 singles, and you just can't not hear them on the radio all the time. And then there will be an artist that maybe has one top 40 single in his life. But that artist with the one top 40 single actually sells more albums than the artist on the radio all the time. Because that artist that just has one top 40 hit has a huge, loyal fan following. And the radio artist is just people just like the songs on the radio, but they're never going to go buy their albums. You see what I'm saying?
This is going to make me sound really old, but I probably bought 4 or 5 of the Creedence Clearwater Greatest Hits albums because I would wear the CD out when I was traveling a lot. And they always had them for sale. And they always had Creedence. Always had Creedence right next to the register. So you could always buy that. So, yeah, you are loyal. And Tennessee can't move. But I've often wondered if they moved to Nashville, I mean, what would that mean for the average fan? I'm sure there would be a ton of upheaval, but you might have some fans that stuck with them. I don't know, but I think that's the one thing that I do think college football has going for it in college sports. But be careful with that, because I thought NASCAR had the same thing. And then we've talked about it through the car of tomorrow, the managing of egos, the dumb playoff. They did pretty much destroy that sport. I don't know about you, but I'm surprised when I see an advertisement for NASCAR on Prime. I really am. When I see Dale Earnhardt Jr., I'm like, whoa, there's a commercial for NASCAR.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. NASCAR, you can't just solely rely on your loyal fans. NASCAR, what they did, they were, and I do worry that college football is doing this. They're relying on loyal fans, and they're not doing moves to bring in new fans of a younger generation. Because I've said this for a long time. If you make college football the minor league of the NFL, well, hell, how does minor league baseball do right now? Not that well. College football does well because it's different. It's unique from the NFL completely. This is why I oppose the playoff. I oppose the super conference. I oppose all of these things because it's taking away from what the specific things that made college football great and unique. And I'm warning everybody about this. And I do fear that if we're talking about this now, Tennessee being valued at, say, $10 billion, as we said, will they be in 50 years or 100 years? Okay, inflation maybe, but $10 billion adjusted for inflation? I don't know. Is college football going the way of NASCAR and the way horse racing went in the 1950s?
Well, I mean, listen, things change and we get caught in the moment and we don't believe that. But the three biggest sports in the 50s, it was baseball, boxing, and horse racing. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, and a lot of those things, I do think that college football and the NFL have a built-in advantage that you're starting to see actually help the NBA out. A lot of people are watching highlights, so that's why the NBA's exposure is up, even though the television ratings aren't that up. TV is a rectangular medium, which I think always lends itself to the game of football, right?
Yes, always.
So, I mean, they're always going to win that, and with the college people, they're always going to have a tug at their hearts. And the NFL just seems like the animal you can't beat. It doesn't seem like it's got athletes beating women. It's got all kinds of crazy going in. They just keep rolling on.
Yeah,
nobody talks about Joe Mixon when he runs for a 57-yard touchdown with 2 spins and a hurdle.
No, but Oklahoma had to move on from Bob Stoops because of that. They had to have a mutual agreement for Bob Stoops to retire. So it can affect your college to a certain degree. You're right. NFL, no one cares. But it does somewhat have an impact. I mean, you see this, like just one of the random things, like you see coaches in college football retire ahead of changing times. You don't really see coaches in the NFL retire because the game is changing. They retire or they're usually just fired. But you saw, I've told you guys this before. You saw Tom Osborne retire right as Nebraska was getting the roster, right as the roster limits were getting put in place with the Big 12, because he knew Nebraska wouldn't be able to win anymore.
Tennessee with a big recruiting weekend. Want to get to that. Again, though, that was our discussion brought to you by our fantastic friends at Rick Terry and Rick Terry Jewelry Design. What would Tennessee be worth if they sold? I'm going to say over $10 billion. Maybe I'm crazy. Am I crazy with the land?
No, I think I'm going right at $10 billion. I'm going right at $10 billion.
Does say something still about the Lakers, though, that they're just a brand. What the H? Brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
All right, here we go. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. It is this day in Tennessee sports history. It's brought to you by Sports Treasures. Over 7 million. 5 million. I'm sorry. Probably 7 by now. Sports Treasures. You'll love that store. It is absolutely fantastic. A cornucopia of just great items that you're going to love. Some classics, some brand new. And they got those card pulls that are a lot of fun, too. Follow them on Facebook. If you don't, what are you doing? All right, Caleb, what do we got this day in Tennessee sports history?
On this day, 4 years ago, legendary Tennessee softball coach Ralph Weekly retired. Funny enough, he and Karen had been co-head coaches of the program for dating back to 1990. I'm sorry, dating back to 2002. Dating back to 2002, and he chose to retire 4 years ago. And on this day, and Karen Weekly has been the sole coach of the program ever since.
One of those guys that you come away from, and you're like, man, I kind of like. I would have liked to interview him a little bit longer. Do you know he was in the Air Force?
I did not, actually.
Yeah, he's like a really interesting dude. It's like one of those things where, like if it's an SEC Media Days type event, you've got like, what, 8, maybe 11 minutes to interview these guys. So you feel like you got to get the good stuff in. Either that or just go really left to center and try to see if you can get something quirky in. I've done both, and both have had some success, but not. But he is a guy that you almost don't want to talk to him about softball. You just want to talk about, he's just had a really, really interesting life. So, great dude. And you have to give great dude. He's my elder, great man. You have to give him an awful lot of credit for helping build Tennessee softball what it was, not only in Knoxville, but he was a longtime coach at Chattanooga as well. So Tennessee very blessed to have him and be able to hand it off to Karen Weekly, who's been a little outspoken lately. Have you noticed that about the tampering thing? She
is not a fan of the tampering.
I love that. I don't see any way that you could do it, though. I don't see any way that I could tell Caleb you can't even listen to somebody that calls.
She's frustrated because I think it was Texas A&M that was poaching a couple of players, but Texas A&M is throwing a bunch of money out on softball right now. So I think money that Tennessee is not going to throw, nor should they throw at softball. Put it that way.
Yep, fair enough. All right, so this I want to get to. Tennessee's recruiting weekend. How about a guy named Hitter? That's a pretty good name for a football player. Moa, listen, if they're Polynesian, I'll take 2. And then we'll talk Braden Rouse as well, a 4-star linebacker. So a lot of prospects we want to dive into. Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning and cityheatandair.com. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, Parkside Drive, and Kingston Pike is East Tennessee's largest volume dealer.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
I have to tell you what, we're going to do something here, Caleb.
What's up?
I don't know, because I'm having a little technical issue, but I want to get the element working. I believe I can do that. Do you believe I can do that?
I have no faith in you. No, I'm kidding.
I don't have any faith in me either, actually. Can you hear it now?
Boom. We are good.
Okay. All right. Let's just start it over.
My man.
All right. Here we go. Let's go ahead and get rolling here as we move forward. That is Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Let's start with one Faison Brandon, who at Elite 11 camp got tabbed with the highest upside. That's pretty strong because he was already considered one of the top handfuls of quarterbacks in the nation in the 2026 class. It's funny, you hear a lot about Faison Brandon, and I'm going to tell you a lot of it's just smoke. So in the course of his recruitment, and I've covered enough of these to know, I think Patrick Ramsey was one of the more evident that he was kind of found early. Cornerback in the NFL, played for Brentwood Academy. And is it Patrick Ramsey, the corner?
Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey, excuse me. Sorry. Okay,
Isn't
so
Patrick
anyway,
Ramsey the quarterback that Steve Spurrier just wrecked his career?
he destroyed it. Okay, so Jalen Ramsey, I'm sorry, was kind of one of those guys that got found early. Everybody knew he was going to Florida State, and he committed, and then he wasn't, and he was, and then he went to some camps, and he wasn't that good. Well, that's a lot of talk from other recruiters at other schools. Caleb, that's exactly what that is. And that is not anything I would put a lot of stock in. Now, when I see a guy at On3 say he has the most upside, I think that says a lot. The other thing that says to me is at 6'3", he is not massive like Cam Newton. So I'm curious what the most upside means. I read into it, and it was his mobility. So I think that's huge. And let me ask you, Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. How important is mobility in a quarterback? Does Faison Brandon have it? And let's look at some other prospects that were in Knoxville over the weekend.
Where do you stand? Hot or cold? Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Integrity matters. 50 years in East Tennessee. Cityheatandair.com. On Off the Hook Sports.
All right, go, Caleb. Hot or cold?
And for hot or cold, we could just say Caleb or Dave. I'm kidding.
I would say mobility. I'm going to make you say hot or cold because it's somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, you don't want to stiff out there, but you also don't necessarily need Mike Vick. So
I'm hot on Faison Brandon's mobility and how good it is. I watched his feet. It's not. He doesn't run as awkwardly as Nico Amaliava ran.
Okay, but two questions. I want to get to that one too. Just in terms of this offense needing above average mobility, are you hot that Tennessee's quarterback needs that? Or are you cold that they can do fine without it?
Oh, I'm cold. I think without mobility, you can still be good. I've seen Heupel's system work really well with immobile quarterbacks in the past. Drew Lock wasn't mobile when he was at Missouri, and when Heupel was at Missouri, and they were out here with absolutely no talent around them, putting up 400 yards a game in the SEC. So I do think that mobility helps. It depends on the type of quarterback you are. If somebody like Joe Milton, for instance, who was mobile, should have used his legs a lot more. Because he just wasn't the best passer, and he didn't want to use his legs, and that was a huge mistake on his part. And so I think for him, the mobility mattered. I think for Hendon Hooker, the mobility took Hooker from who could have been a good quarterback in Heupel's system to just incredible. I think you and I would both agree on that, right? Hooker's mobility. Nico's was a little bit different. I do think that he wasn't. I think Nico's mobility was actually fine. I think there were just other issues with the offense in terms of his passing. So that's a lot of word salad to say. I'm cold in general, probably on it being a necessity to be good in this offense.
I don't think it needs to be a necessity at all. I think decision making needs to be a necessity. I think there were even times Hendon Hooker early. Now everybody's like this, okay? So I'm not knocking. There were times when he seemed unsure whether or not he should run the football. There were definitely times where Joe Milton was unsure whether or not to run the football. I would say the same for Nico. So to me, there's some uncertainty that's breeding into the decision-making process. That to me is a troublesome thing. Yeah, I know that I've covered quarterbacks. The offense was this simple, or especially earlier in their career. If somebody got hurt, is that guy open? Yes, throw it. If he's not, run it. So let's turn to the weekend here. And as Tennessee with a big recruiting weekend over the weekend. But I think Brandon Faison Brandon, excuse me, is somebody to be excited about. And I talked to some people over the weekend that think he's pretty darn good. So hot or cold, are you hot or cold on Faison Brandon? Let me get this in. Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatingair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
All right. So a lot of you may not know. Here is the way the recruiting calendar works now. It's now. Okay. So in the middle of June and the middle of July is when you're going to determine largely the foundation of your recruiting class. Tennessee is very fortunate, and they have a Brandon Brandon, excuse me, to lay the foundation for him. Now, that being said, how significant is that before we talk about some recruits over the weekend? Hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Having an elite quarterback helps you recruit other elite prospects. Hot or cold?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. For two reasons, by the way, two big reasons. One, just the natural, obvious aura of the elite quarterback. People are going to see that and say, I want to go play at that program because I want to catch passes from him. But the other part, and this is a big one, the good ones do a lot of recruiting on their own. I mean, Dave, how many connections does George McIntyre have with all the elite athletes in the state? He's probably met them all, right? Being at Tennessee. And Faison Brandon has connections with all the elite athletes in North Carolina. He's probably met them all. This was a big knock against Nico. Nico, I would say, was too quiet. And I don't think he recruited for California. I don't think he was connected to California. He didn't recruit for Tennessee at California. I think Faison will recruit for Tennessee at North Carolina, where Tennessee needs to poach some talent, particularly with Bill Belichick there now. George McIntyre is going to do it for Tennessee within the state of Tennessee, which is a big deal. And I believe Jake Merklinger from Georgia could potentially recruit from Georgia. I don't think he has the same connections, though, that I think Brandon and McIntyre have, because Brandon and McIntyre are so much more highly touted than those two. So with that in mind, I'm actually very, very, very hot on what Faison Brandon brings to the table. And, to get back to it with his style of play, while mobility is not a necessity to be good in this offense, it certainly helps. And Brandon's got the type of mobility with his legs that's exactly what you want. Now, again, we're not going to know neck up until we see him on campus. No one else. And
now,
no one can.
What about fit? Because you are the one that famously said that Nico Iamaleava was developed in a lab for Josh Heupel's offense. Well, this sounds kind of similar. Tom Luganbill saying that he thinks that Faison Brandon and Tennessee is the best fit between player and team among the elite 11 quarterbacks. Tom Luganbill, longtime ESPN analyst and quarterback analyst, saying Tennessee's scheme is plug and play friendly and fits Brandon's big arm and sneaky mobility. 6'3.5" now. He grew an inch over the weekend, apparently. 195 pounds, but he lost 5 pounds. He's the number 13 overall prospect in the 2026 class. So don't think for a second that this guy isn't of Nico's ilk. And it's what I wanted to point out in the column that I believe is up on offthehooksports.com. This is in some ways, it hasn't produced on the field yet, but from a quarterback standpoint, these are glory days. Just recruiting. These are glory days. You're securing the guy in your backyard in McIntyre. You're going out west and getting a guy that could have gone anywhere. I don't care if NIL paid for it or not. You get a high 4-star guy in Merklinger who comes down the pike, despite the fact that you just got Nico. He's willing to compete. Same for McIntyre and Faison Brandon willing to compete. I mean, these And part of this is the backdrop. And the backdrop is guys know they can transfer, so they'll give you a run. But still, you talk about, I don't honestly think that there has been more highly rated quarterback prospects on Tennessee's campus. And
no, I agree.
The only one I can think of it's close was you had Casey Clausen, Tim Rattay, and somebody else, and then a donkey, basically.
I mean, obviously, AJ sucks.
Okay, AJ was not the donkey.
To be fair, I mean, when you had Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart, and then I think Todd Helton was a highly touted quarterback. I mean, there wasn't stars at that time, but I think he could have been a good quarterback at college if he focused on football.
That's a very good one, because there was still this time where you could look at a guy and say he is good at football and he helps this team, but he is not a real football player. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Ronald Curry was the same way in basketball at North Carolina. You looked at him and you're like, oh, he's up and out and he's good, but he is sports basketball. So, yeah, had Todd Helton been the only quarterback they had on the roster after Colquitt, and he hadn't gotten hurt, they would have been okay.
Yeah, they could have managed the season. Yeah, and so, it's funny. Exactly. So I see that. I mean, then there's obviously Peyton Manning and T. Martin together, because I do know that T. Martin was highly touted coming out of high school, wasn't he? Everybody was in love with him as a high school prospect.
Yes, and that was a statement get. We talk about how Tennessee got Heath Schuler, and it put them in the upper echelon of quarterback recruiting. Obviously, you get Peyton Manning. You do that. And then I think you take it a step further when you say, here's this guy in the heart of Alabama country, and he's coming to Tennessee, despite the fact that he's got a quarterback in front of him that could potentially stay an extra year, which he did. And we probably overlook that as a significant recruiting victory.
That was a huge recruiting win. As a matter of fact, I mean, this is going to be a weird question. Like, obviously, Peyton Manning is the biggest recruiting coup of all time, but I mean, does T. Martin rival it? He kind of rivals it as a recruiting coup.
It might be a fun column to do because, especially if I get pulled over by the Sevier County Police Department that Joey Matthews works for, had they had to go the Joey Matthews route, they don't win a championship. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb.
Oh, wow. That's a big limb to go out on, Dave.
I mean, they opened it up and everybody got hit. And in spring practice of 98, that's when Joey Matthews went from quarterback to police officer.
Yeah, so now he...
That's when he said, that's enough of that.
I mean, I could see that. Now, and Joey Matthews, his one touchdown pass was against Southern Miss in 2000, and the pass was deflected, and Cedric Wilson came down with it.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we going here? Do we want to break down some more recruiting? We got a little long-winded on the quarterback situation.
No, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, let's play. I say we play a little 4 downs with some of the prospects that were here over the weekend, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on whether or not I think they will end up at Tennessee or not. And by the way, my predictions are always right. So
you can't get this knowledge anywhere else. 4 downs right now, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com.
Come on, guys, it's game time.
4 downs. Can you count? 4 downs. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer. Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, here we go. Caleb's he's not going down into the tanks. He's pulling out the big ones. Let's go ahead and go first down now, brought to you by our good friends. No, we're doing hot or cold right now, right?
Yeah. No. First, we're doing 4 downs. You're right. 4 downs.
Okay. 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Sorry about that. All right. First down, Caleb Calhoun. What will be the best unit on Tennessee's defense? Let's start with the defensive line.
Well, no. We're doing it's 4 downs with the recruits who visited this weekend.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yes.
Man, you threw me off a little. Tell you what, let's start all over. 4 downs brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
By Ted Russell.
4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln on Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike. That last one was a joke. Okay, so let's look at some of the prospects that were in town over the weekend. Savion Hitter, great name, 5-star running back. Is he considered the move to linebacker given his name?
No, you would think he should, but I will say this. He drew some. I think Tennessee is in very good position to land him. He visited Tennessee over the weekend, and I don't know if you know, but he drew some massive ire from Michigan fans who thought they had him locked down. And so his visit to Tennessee, they went at him on Twitter, which I think could sour him on Michigan fans. And I think, I'm just going to say this right up front, I think Tennessee's in the lead for Savion Hitter. He's a Virginia kid. Tennessee has a pipeline into Virginia. I think they're going to land Savion Hitter. I know that's crazy, but I do think they're going to get him. I think he's, after seeing what Dylan Sampson did last year in the offense too, I think a lot more running backs are going to be excited to go to Tennessee.
Which they probably weren't heading into last year. You thought of it more as a quarterback wide receiver offense.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And after what happened last year, I think there's that's going to stay common because there's going to be teams playing a lot more shell coverage. But what's underrated is, and what Heupel can recruit to is, you can run they run the ball a lot. Heupel has always run the ball a lot when he's been at Tennessee. So I do think that would be a huge pickup for Tennessee on that front. And yeah, no, I think he's going to land at Tennessee. I think particularly, even though Michigan is running back you almost with that power eye that they run, I think that Tennessee, what the recent success they had is going to change everything with that for running backs.
Chad Simmons had this to say, and Chad's usually pretty tied in with a lot of these guys. Tennessee is deep in the race. Savion Hitter has connected with the staff. He loves the Tennessee offense, and the Vols get the 5-star running back's final visit of the summer. That was this past weekend. Ohio State is working to stay in this, but Tennessee's top competition looks to be Michigan. Coop, what should we do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
And what down was that?
Coop here. First down.
It's
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, Coop. Thanks for setting us up. Second down is this young man, Salisi Moa, 4-star athlete. Again, I just see Moa, and maybe I'm stereotyping, but if it's a Polynesian player, I'll take as many as you got.
He hails from Utah, Ogden, Utah, to be specific.
Okay.
And he is an athlete, 6'2", 190. He wants to be Travis Hunter at the college level. He wants to be Travis Hunter. I hear that, from what I'm reading, Michigan State, Utah, Michigan, and Oklahoma are also targeting him heavily. I'm going to tell you what his commitment, I believe, hinges on. His commitment hinges on how Tennessee uses Boo Carter this year. And if they use Boo Carter a lot, I do think that I think he will look at Tennessee, because none of the other schools are going to run two-way players. But if Tennessee uses Boo Carter, then yeah, we might be talking about him going to Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'm not high on the two-way player thing, not as high as you are, but I will say it's going to become a necessity very soon. And I say that because you got few players. All right, here we go. What down are we on, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Recruiting wrap actually it was brought to you by Ted Russell, Ford, Ted Russell Lincoln. We got a little out of mojo there, but I got to tell you about Ted Russell. When I went there and purchased my Jeep, the buying process was unbelievable, unbelievably easy, unbelievably quick, and I was so taken care of. I was so pleased when I drove off the lot, and every time I hop in the car, I'm absolutely ecstatic. More prospect news, Tennessee prospect news, and it's brought to you by Ted Russell Ford and Ted Russell Lincoln. Go to tedrussell.net, tedrusselllincoln.net on Parkside Drive, and of course, Kings Topeka, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Thank you, Coop. All right, so we got this young man up next, Braden Rouse, 4-star linebacker. What can you tell us about Mr. Rouse?
Yes, Braden Rouse is a 4-star linebacker out of Marietta, where Tennessee does have a solid decent pipeline, but Tennessee is going to have to fend off Alabama, Texas, and Michigan to land him. And familiar face, Brian Jean-Marie at Michigan is the one recruiting him heavily, and he's recruiting against Tennessee. But William Inge and Tim Banks are going hard after Braden Rouse. I mean, hard. And I mean, they're pulling out the big guns at him. So we'll kind of see what he does. He's probably the biggest wild card that I can't put my finger on exactly where he'll end up. But I do think, I will say this, Tennessee's going all in on him, and he seemed to really, really, really love his visit to Tennessee over the weekend, which is a really good sign for Tennessee. Now, again,
Go ahead.
I said again, it's a summer. I don't know. You know more than me on this. I feel like players need to witness games more than they need to witness like a summer visit to commit. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You can
No, I agree, but it's getting squeezed out of the calendar.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of the problems. I mean, if you like, none of these guys you mentioned, and we'll have a 4-star, or we'll have fourth down coming up, but none of these guys you mentioned have to worry about it. Any school is going to hold a scholarship open for them. But I'm sure there's some 3-stars that got squeezed because they want to see the game day atmosphere, and they either had to commit during the summer without seeing it because they were quick risers as juniors, or they didn't go and lost their scholarship. I feel pretty certain that probably happened. That's unfortunate.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Who's fourth down on our fantastic list brought to you by City Heating and Air? I'm sorry, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford, TedRussellLincoln.net.
Fourth down on our list is a man named Carson Sneed, who is a commitment, but this is a big deal. Carson Sneed is committed to Tennessee. He's been committed to Tennessee for a while in the 2026 class. He is out of Donaldson Christian Academy in Nashville. 4-star prospect on composite, 3-star on 247 Sports. Florida is not giving up on him. Florida is trying everything in their arsenal to get him. But Carson Sneed reportedly loved his visit over the weekend with Alec Ablin and Joey Halsley. And sounds like he's still committed, but Tennessee, he's a commitment. Tennessee has to do work to keep from flipping, basically.
Yep. There you go. Steve says y'all need to hit the like button. It's that important. It is. So take a moment, hit that like button. Let's get people, more people on board. It does mean a lot. And the support recently has been fantastic. We certainly appreciate you. And so we've got some big exciting things coming up, including Boo Carter playing offense, which that seems to be Caleb's dream. Would you rather Boo Carter get 1,000 offensive yards or Tennessee win 10 games and advance to the semifinal playoff?
Well, I mean, the prop bet, based on my prop bets, I got to go Boo Carter 1,000 yards because I think I'm going to put money on that, and my bets matter more.
Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. Give me 2 minutes, and then coming up, we'll talk some Tennessee defense. Also, we'll have, I believe it's stat of the day as well. And then Wisconsin is suing Miami over tampering. What a stunner. 2 minutes off the hooks.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to the program. Dave's Wi-Fi cut out for a second.
Life for real.
There he is.
The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun, represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Welcome back to the program. Let's go ahead and dive into it. What the H today brought to you by our fantastic friends at City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. They also bring you hot or cold. So, Caleb, let's go ahead and dive into it. What the H? Your thoughts on Wisconsin tampering?
Oh, so Wisconsin is not tampering. They are suing somebody for tampering.
Yes, I said Wisconsin and tampering. Sorry.
Yes, exactly. So basically, Wisconsin has filed a lawsuit claiming the Miami football team broke the law by tampering with a Badgers player, according to Dan Murphy of ESPN, a first of its kind legal attempt to enforce the terms of a financial contract between a football player and his school. Now, the lawsuit refers to the athlete in question as student athlete A, but details from the complaint line up with the all-season transfer of freshman defensive back Xavier Lucas. Lucas left Wisconsin and enrolled in Miami at January after seeing the Badgers staff refuse to enter his name in the transfer portal in December.
All right, Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC, Life Made Better. This is going to be a reoccurring theme. The biggest problem moving forward with what the NCAA has created with the easy transfers, with getting paid, with all of that, much of which I agree with, but there are still not sufficient guardrails. Bank on it. These tampering lawsuits are going to be a regular occurrence.
I agree, particularly now that the House settlement is over. I think there will be more and more. And here's where I think they'll come out. Let's be honest, Dave. Let's talk about what's happening with tampering. A school's not just calling up a player during the season and say, hey, you want to come play for my school? That's not exactly what's happening. It is they're calling up a player, and they got about 2 or 3 boosters on the other line saying, you want to come play for my school? What about an endorsement deal here and an endorsement deal there and an endorsement deal there? Old McDonald had a farm style or Oprah style. You get an endorsement. You get an endorsement. That's what they're doing. Schools are going to sue and claim that all of those endorsement deals are violating the NIL Go third-party policy of enforcing NIL deals. That's what they're going to do.
So this technically should be against the rules, right?
Technically.
So what could happen? Could we see scholarship productions? Could we see bowl bans? I mean, what are the punishments?
This is the problem. There will be lawsuits. Nothing's going to come of it because any punishment, the player would countersue and say his antitrust rights were violated by not being able to be tampered with. That's a weird thing to say, by the way. But I mean, what's going to happen is if there is any punishment, unfortunately, it's going to come to the player. I think the player will get in trouble for violating certain rules. And I mean, you hate to see that, but he will be considered ineligible.
Yeah, we're right back to where we started. You've got a bunch of rules you can't enforce.
Exactly. You got a bunch of rules you can't enforce. And Dave, let's be honest, how tight are the hands going to be in this NIL Go? They're going to be locked in court for every single third-party deal they try to nix, aren't they? NIL deal.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but Mike Slive, I think, is part of his legacy was cleaning up the SEC and some issues that were going on. But still, even at the height of the SEC, guess how many investigators they had on staff at one time for all the hundreds of schools? I mean, there's 120 Division I football teams. There's 300 Division I basketball teams, and they have to do all the other ones. But guess how many investigators they had on their staff?
I'd argue less than 10, but I could be wrong.
No, you're right. 7.
That's insane.
How the hell are you ever going to get anything done with 7? Oh, Bob's got it. Well, how long has he been on it? Since like 2008.
What it's showing is the schools that got caught cheating, man, they were dumb, weren't they? Because it was so easy to get away with cheating back in the day. Because the university's hands were tied.
They were dumb, but more oftentimes they were egotistical. Because I thought that they wanted to stand up and say, we didn't do anything wrong. We told you we didn't do anything wrong. This is my sandbox, get out of it. The ones that were smart, like Tennessee, they would just come out and admit to everything and then some.
Yeah, and then the NCAA is like, okay, we'll let you guys go then. Oh, then the other thing Tennessee would do is we'll admit to it, but why don't we also tell you about we got information on this other school that's doing some stuff, as Philip Fulmer very notably said.
They did that. Now, in all fairness, let me ask you this: what's Philip supposed to do when he knows that Albert Means is getting $250,000? I mean, now I've read the personal written letters that he wrote to Roy Kramer about Roy Adams, and it's nothing I'm comfortable relaying at this very moment. Okay, he got very personal and very attacking on personal preference choices, and I'm just going to leave it there. So, but he did do what he was supposed to do. I mean, if somebody, especially his take was, and he didn't tell me this directly, but if Alabama had been doing that in Gadsden, Alabama, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, he would have been fine with it. But he still considered Memphis a part of the state, which you and I know it's kind of not. But he considered it a part of the state, and he's like, you can't come doing that in my backyard. Don't you think that's fair?
That's part of it. And also, well, yeah, I agree. That's part of it. But what's also not told on that story is there were about 4 other SEC coaches that complained about Logan Young. And Steve Spurrier specifically complained about Logan Young and Albert Means. And so Fulmer wasn't the only one complaining to the NCAA. He's just the only one that took the extra step and secretly recorded a tape conversation and turned that conversation over to the NCAA. Like, no one went that nuclear, but like everybody in the SEC was complaining about Alabama during that time.
Okay, do we want that? I mean, is that something? Because let's face it, college football had about 7 polls back in, you'd know this better than I would, 30s and 40s, the Dunkel Index and all those things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of champions, and they didn't have talk radio back then, but I'm sure they had a water cooler of some sort that they stood around and talked about. Did they want that? I mean, did people say, I think Notre Dame's better in Southern California, and gosh, gee willikers, I'll bet you half a hog on it. I don't know what they bet back then, but the point is, I mean, is that just part of college football? Do we want to talk about whether or not Tennessee or Alabama or Florida or whoever is going to get in trouble? I mean, I enjoyed the Jaden Rashada talk with Florida because they look like a monkey doing football, but it just didn't work. Billy Napier looked insane. But I don't know. Do we want that?
I mean, it's good fodder during the summer, but it does wreck like the best part of when you're covering the season. Because if let's call it what it is. While it's conversation in the summer, if a high profile school is on probation, that hurts the magnitude of the games they're playing. Now, let's be fair, bowl bans aren't coming anymore. The NCAA is done with bowl bans. They're not doing that anymore. And so you are right.
I seriously think a casual fan could go through bowl season and not know his team was playing in a bowl.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you were to get into the more into the playoffs, by the way, Caleb's shaving is being a topic of discussion.
Guys, it's hot.
You went with a clean shaven look?
I was going to trim my beard and shape it up because I have like a certain trim that I like it at. But then as I started shaving, I'm like, forget this. This is way too hot. I'm shaving the whole thing off.
Oh, you look good. A lot of guys commenting. That's fine if you want to. One lady commenting, Ashley, what do you have to say? She says, what was that say?
Caleb shaved. Excuse me, Caleb, your dimples are showing.
Oh, All right. What do
Yeah,
you think, Ashley? Beard, no beard? We'll ask Ashley. Let's go ahead and make that poll.
We should have made that. We should have made that the hot or cold. Caleb beard, Caleb no beard.
What is what do we stand in our poll question currently? As I remind you, portions of the program are brought to you by good friends at Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. And don't forget, we broadcast live from Ted Russell Ford and the Ted Russell Lincoln Studios. No question about it. All right. So what do we got as our poll question right now?
Right now, we still got how much is Tennessee football worth? And a plurality, 36% say $1 billion, 33% say $100 million. Only 20% are like me and you, Dave, and out here saying $10 billion, but 11% are saying $50 billion. Throw that money down, $50 billion, baby. But wait, get that Saudi money.
Yeah, I want to go back because this gentleman, he came across like he knew more about business than me, so I'll believe him. Why not? He said it's 36 times monthly. Would that be revenue or would that be budget?
36 times monthly? I don't know. I'm a little confused by that.
Okay, so it's to evaluate a business. So let's say 225 million. That's the budget, right?
Okay.
Okay, if I can do this. Divided by 12 equals...
That would be roughly 21 million.
Or 1875. 36. I don't think this is right. I'm getting 675 million.
Yeah, that would be like, instead of dividing by 12 and multiplying by 36, you could just multiply by 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Ashley weighed in on is Caleb more attractive without his beard? What did she say?
She said no, Steve, but but that Steve asked a question. I need to know the question. Steve asked. But you guys, oh my gosh.
She says he pulls them off both well. I personally like a clean shave or show.
Or show. Okay, sorry.
I don't know what that means. I missed the razor this morning. I feel bad about that. Usually, I'm a
shadow, clean shaven or shadow. Okay, all right.
Okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So,
so bank on it. We're going to have more teams sue each other for tampering, and I believe that this situation now with Miami and was it Wisconsin?
Yep.
Okay. I actually think that's going to be the outlier. I think you're going to see more in-conference stuff.
Oh, I think so too. Man, how epic's that going to be when Tennessee and Alabama, like the week that they're playing a game that they got a court, the athletic directors have a court date that they have to face off in federal court with each other.
Oh gosh.
I mean, let's not forget this. Philip Fulmer almost was going to go to court because if he had gone to the state of Alabama in 2004, which is where SEC Media Days was held, he was going to get subpoenaed. So he didn't show up.
Okay. We might turn this into, we might reset a little bit into what's the biggest problem in college football. Now, this day in Tennessee sports history coming up, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. The always handsome, now half-bearded. When did you shave? Because your beard grows in a lot faster than
I actually shaved on Friday, believe it or not. I shaved on Friday.
Oh, weird. So you could get away with a day and nobody says
I could get away with a week probably before something comes in. So
no, I would say if you need to shave today, if you decide to shave, I'm gonna say you decide.
Do I look like I need to shave? I still don't look like I needed to shave. My face is still clean.
No, I would say that if you wanted a clean look, not that you have to. I don't, obviously, but this would be the day to shave.
Oh, I think I could probably wait until like Wednesday, probably before I had to shave.
You do you.
You want to bet? Let's throw this bet down. What is the over-under on when my beard starts to show again?
No, it is showing now. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Really?
I don't know what camera you're looking into.
Okay.
How about this? Is Ashley still with us? Since Ashley's our female listener, Ashley, if you can promise to be with us on Wednesday, so you can tell us if Caleb pulled it off. Now, I'm going to shave because I don't even like looking at myself with the thing going on. So I'm going to get the whiskers off. But with Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com, as we broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios. You're absolutely not going to believe this day in Tennessee sports history. And I'm going to tell you, is it stat of the day or the
it's actually stat of the day. It's stat of the day.
Stat of the day coming up next. And I'm going to drop some knowledge on you from talking to some high school coaches and some college recruiters. Stay tuned. More after this Off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
And here we go. This was a huge waste of time, like bringing a married guy to Vegas.
Then there's this guy, the Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
Welcome back. The discussions about beards apparently are taking off. Matt, he hiked through the Appalachian Trail. Man, that's something I like to do. But I'm lazy and don't like hiking. But other than that, that's all me.
Who was the? Wasn't there a governor that went missing? Like people thought he had gone missing, and it turned out he was just hiking the Appalachian Trail with his mistress. I think was the thing.
I didn't know that. Lance Armstrong said he did it, but he just lied about it. All right. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. The show is broadcast from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer. Just nothing like those guys. You will be well taken care of. And it's never the off season on this show. Yeah, I never thought about that, Colton, because Colton says it's the off season, Dave, leave us alone. No. It's never the off season. That's what I love about Knoxville. Because there are things I like to talk about in-depth football that I can't talk about if Nico's think, well, now that's in the off season. But if somebody's getting tampered with during the season or that sort of
thing. The way that's phrased, someone's getting tampered with, just sounds like,
oh yeah,
Are
you tampering with me? Please stop tampering yourself in public. All right,
my gosh.
What do we got? This day in Tennessee sports history?
Stat of the day.
Stat of the day is now. Who's that brought to you by?
Stat of the day is brought to you by Joe Newbert Collision Center.
All right. Stat of the day brought to you by Joe Newbert Collision Center. Let's get going right now with the stat of the day. Did The element didn't reset. My board's gone crazy, so we just have dance music and no voicer. All right, what do you got? Stat of the day.
All right, stat of the day. I'm going to go morbid on you guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to go really, really, really morbid on you guys, but I feel like we have to since we might be at war by the end of the week. The United States, Tennessee football has only played 3 seasons in history with the United States officially at war. And when I mean officially, I mean Congress actually declared war. Those 3 seasons are 1942 and 1944 and 1945, World War II. They went 9-1-1, 7-1-1, and 8-1 those 3 seasons.
Wow. You definitely went deep and serious on me there. I just, to me, the concept of going to war is still a little foreign. You know, I grew up at a time where I had a buddy who Navy reserves specifically said, well, there's no way I'm going to war because nobody went to war after Vietnam of the 90s. I took a lot of that seriously, and can imagine it. So, man, we talk about football recruiting. Get off to play football, where he's going to take care of. He's going to be taking care of military too, but he could also get really, really hurt. And that I don't know. There's more I can say about it than that. You have a son now. Imagine.
Oh yeah, and I guess all I'll say is all I can remember now when I think of football related to war is when the war in Iraq begins in 2003 and Kellen Winslow decides to say, I'm an effing soldier, just as our troops are being deployed to Iraq.
You know what's funny is I covered that game and did not know that till I got back to my hotel. And because I was just covering Tennessee and I didn't hear him say that. And I was a little bit stunned.
When he said that Jason Allen was trying to hurt him, I'm like, I know Jason Allen. Jason Allen wasn't trying to hurt him. Like I know the type of player Jason Allen is. Jason Allen plays. He played physical. He wasn't a dirty player.
No, I didn't think Jason Allen was a dirty player at all. I thought he would have been a very good. He suffered a very similar injury that Bo Jackson, hip injury.
Oh yeah, that hip injury against Georgia.
Back then, that blood flow. You lose blood flow to your hip a certain amount of time. It's not going to rehab. It's not going to rebuild. Not have that happen. It didn't happen to me, but it was a concern whenever you get it. I've got one of those. But ultimately, as we move forward on the program and get closer to SEC Media Days, which is right around the corner, remember all those that served and continue to serve, and those also that gave the ultimate sacrifice. That Kellen Winslow thing was bizarre. I truly believe that there are a handful of people that were severely affected by CTE. I think.
Oh yeah, I think Kellen Winslow was one of them, and I think he had it before he even got into college, honestly. And yeah, Florida tight ends that go to college in Florida, they end up having problems.
Yep. All right. So Ashley is going to jump on Wednesday. Ashley, do you agree to do that? She says, I like the honesty on this channel. Thank you. But you agree to tell us if Caleb's pulling off the 5 o'clock shadow, which I don't think will happen.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Ashley, you got to be here. And by the way, Steve says that he's here for Jimmy. Jimmy will be back vacation season in Knoxville. I will say that. And the guy likes to play a lot of golf. I can't blame him. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. The show represented live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studios, East Tennessee's largest volume dealer, Parkside Drive and Kingston Pike.